Open for business. Whatever. I want to make any decision I make is going to be in the best interest of the New York Football Giants, plain and simple. So if someone makes me an offer I can't refuse, would I move back? It depends upon who's there. Because again, if there's a guy worthy of being the second pick of a draft, and what we're basically saying, if we answer that question to the affirmative, you're drafting what you think is going to be a Hall of Fame player. Okay, so you can't get too cute about the whole thing.
All right, Chris, who knows when the Giants are ever going to have that #2 pick again? This is an odd year where they're actually very lucky to have their pick of a class which actually has a bunch of quarterbacks, and they have an aging quarterback. So would sticking with Eli instead of drafting a QB be a mistake for this team, do you think?
Well, it's interesting. He mentioned Hall of Fame player. He's thinking the last time the Giants had the #2 pick, Lawrence Taylor. So that's probably where that comes from. I like Eli. I'm not out on Eli being your quarterback for the next year or two, but this is a quarterback-heavy draft.
Yep.
And granted, there are people that don't think Darnold or Rosen or any of these guys is going to be a superstar. There are those that love them. But as far as quarterbacks go coming out of college, isn't this about as certain as you can be on some guys?
And
like,
it's
you
as
never
deep
know.
of a class as
Exactly.
You can be.
So
there's multiple, because you know a quarterback's going #1 to Cleveland. In some classes, you'd be like, man, there's one guy everybody loves. He's not going to be there. The Cam Newton class, for example, once Cam goes, then it's like Blaine Gabbert, and all of a sudden, that's not the case here. The case here is there's multiple guys. So go ahead.
Yeah, so this is as good as it's going to get in a draft for quarterbacks. So I definitely have to take Darnold. I love Darnold to be there if I'm the Giants. But if he wasn't there, I'd take Rosen. And I think it'd be perfect for a young QB to learn under Eli. Eli's mature. Eli's a good leader. He can handle New York. And he's not one of these. You might have looked at Eli when he was younger and thought he's not going to be able to handle New York because he's a different, just low-key type guy. He's handled it tremendously. He could help whoever that next quarterback is learn how to be a QB in New York. So I would definitely take a quarterback. I know they've got other needs. I know you need some help on the offensive line. You're looking at Saquon Barkley, and I can't hate the thought of looking at him at #2 because when you look at the two running backs who were drafted top 5 recently, Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, both have been game changers. I think there's a revitalization. You're right, Todd Gurley. There's a revitalization in my mind of the running back position and how important it is.
Barkley's going to be a great player. I'm confident in that. I am more confident in Barkley being a great player. I think he has a lower chance to be a bust than any of the quarterbacks. Like any of the quarterbacks could be a bust. But the value of the quarterback versus the running back is so disproportionate. And the Giants have to have a tough conversation with themselves right now. The first thing you have to do in the NFL, as long as the playoff format is the way it is win your division. If you don't win your division, you cannot have a home playoff game, right? Like, so you start out on the road, you can't get a bye. The path to the Super Bowl is so much harder. So look at your division. Do you have the oldest quarterback in the division? You do. Do you have the worst quarterback in the division? You do. If you have the oldest quarterback, and he's the worst quarterback, and you're drafting #2 in a quarterback-heavy draft, you will long-term regret this decision if you don't take a quarterback. Like, in the short term, I get it. Everyone knows how high I am on Odell. I think the defense can have a bounce-back year. I get the allure of, man, why don't we take Barkley or the best left tackle in the draft, but let's call it Saquon Barkley. Give Eli a great running back, have Odell come back full strength, Eli in the final year that we can really push with him, and go try to win a championship. I get it. But then in 2019, you're screwed. Yeah. In 2020, you're screwed because you have too much talent on defense, too much talent with Odell to be drafting in the top 5 again. Last year was a perfect storm with Odell's injury and the defense falling apart and a bad head coach.
How much of this is because of trying to clean up the mistake they made last year? They were all in on Eli, then they played poorly, then they were all out on Eli, then they saw the way the league, fans, everyone reacted, then they were back all in trying to put a Band-Aid on. Now all of a sudden they're like, no, forget what we said last year, even though we were in the exact same position. We like Eli. Eli's our guy now.
I feel like with new management, they're past that. I mean, they obviously were trying to clean it up at the end of last season, but now
there are no feelings involved that they didn't want him.
You got rid of those guys.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a whole new regime that can come in and say we love Eli. But you're right. Look, I think they're being fooled by a few things. Eli's 37, as you said, oldest in the division. And they may be looking at, well, Drew Brees is 39. Well, Tom Brady's 40. There's a difference. Those guys are not declining yet. You know, they're still putting
those
up
guys
big-time numbers. And they're better than Eli. He's not in their class.
Not even close.
Yeah, he's not in their class. Ben Roethlisberger, all the guys that are roughly his age, Phillip Rivers, they're just better, and their numbers aren't declining. Eli has been on the decline for the last 3 years, and as you said, he wasn't a super-duper star even before that.
Listen, Eli's last 2 years, he has an 83.3 quarterback rating. Eli, for his career, has an 83.5 quarterback rating. What does that mean? He's always been mediocre. I know he.
I would give him more than mediocre. He's been a. You don't think he's been more than mediocre? He's going to probably be a Hall of Famer.
And it'll be
because of the Super Bowls.
He had these 2 great playoff runs, and in one of those playoff runs, he played really well. Listen, that's part of your legacy, but your legacy has nothing to do with who you are as a player right now. Eli's quarterback rating last year, behind Blake Bortles, Andy Dalton, Tyrod Taylor, Dak Prescott, who we killed all year long. His quarterback rating for his career, behind Jay Cutler,
so
Joe
tell me
Flacco.
Why they're sticking with him?
He's won 2 Super Bowls.
He's won 2 Super Bowls.
Honestly.
He's never hurt.
I think he's better than I think you're giving him credit for.
Last year he was never hurt, and he had come off winning 2 Super Bowls in years past.
And in New York,
but the guy that owns the team is still there.
Here's the thing to remember too: in New York, everything is magnified. So if you do poorly in New York, it's worse than anywhere else. If you do well in New York magnifies it as the media capital of the country.
They'll regret it.
And people think they need to draft. They better draft.
If they don't draft a quarterback,
they better
will
draft
regret
one of these guys.
All right, we're going to take a break now. Coming up, the Celtics back to being the best.